Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the QuickBooks user group for desktop. I want to thank everyone for joining in. Hopefully we can share some good information. A couple housekeeping things first. Some of you are on mute. If you have a question along the way and want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to ask that question. We did get everyone's information. When you registered, all your questions, and hopefully we plan on covering everything. So this session is going to run from 10 to 11:30. I think we have a pretty good agenda and should be able to address everyone's questions, I believe. My name is Bonnie Aleshire. I've been with the firm 18 years. I'm the accounting services supervisor in our Chambersburg office. And also with us, we have Mandy, who also works out of the Chambersburg office, but is working remote in North Carolina, enjoying some very, very warm weather. So Mandy, I am a QuickBooks ProAdvisor. Mandy is also in the process of updating her certification, but she is a ProAdvisor. She helps we both help many of our clients with QuickBooks questions and inquiries. Some of you we have worked with, some of you are I don't recognize the names, but welcome. And again, please feel free to ask questions as we go along. Just a couple things I want to make note. If any of you are running QuickBooks Desktop 2020 or 2021, please be aware that QuickBooks for desktop has now gone subscription based. So those of you that are running QuickBooks 2020, when you get to May of 2023, I want to get these years right, you are going to need to be updated by then in order to still stay functional and have connected services. Connected services would include emailing out of QuickBooks, such as invoices, doing any types of e-filings. If you're running payroll, period, you need to make sure that you are on a supported version, and QuickBooks only supports 3 years back. For those of you running QuickBooks 2021, in May of 24, you will need to be updated to the newest version. Again, it's all subscription based now, so there is an annual fee. If you need to renew, you can always contact one of the ProAdvisors here at SCK and we can get a discount for you. I believe it's 10% right now, but it is subscription based, so there's an annual fee that keeps you up to date. You're always on the most current version, so there are some perks to that. And I think the other thing I wanted to mention, if you are considering moving to QuickBooks Online, please reach out to one of our ProAdvisors first. We have the ability to add you to wholesale billing, which will get you a discount, which I believe is currently 30% on the monthly subscription cost of the QuickBooks Online version. So we can also help you with that conversion, making sure that your QuickBooks file is ready, is compatible, it can be converted to QuickBooks Online. So if you're considering that, just please feel free to reach out to one of the ProAdvisors in the firm. We have 6 offices now. We have Hanover, let me try going down the line, Chambersburg, Hagerstown, Hanover, Carlisle, Camp Hill, and York. So we have ProAdvisors in each office that would be able to assist you. So please feel free to reach out so you can take advantage of the discounts. So at this point, Mandy and I are going to switch back and forth through this webinar. She's going to cover some stuff, so we're going to be flipping screens back and forth. But I am going to turn it over now to Mandy. She's going to cover the first couple topics.
Okay. Oh.
She is going to try to share her screen.
I'm going to try, but I just lost my screen.
Loving technology right now. Can you get it?
I think so. All right.
There we go.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the first thing and one of the questions that we got was about closing books after year end. So that is a preference option. And you would want to go into the preferences, and it's under accounting, and it's a company preference. And there's this box down here, it says set date password. So this is used after, you would want to use this after all of the year-end journal entries will be made from the prior year, because so you'll set your date. And I think I need to do 2022 because of the sample
So
file.
the sample file, yeah.
Yeah. And then you would set your password. And then that's going to close your book. So anytime you would try to make an entry or do any type of accounting function in that year and you change something, it's going to prompt you for that password. So we don't want to
Mandy,
go back and
go ahead.
things. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you do not have to set a password in there. What happens if you don't put a password in is if you go to, or if someone goes to enter a transaction, it's going to give you a reminder that you're trying to enter to a closed period. And people are just going to click out of that reminder. Yep, I still want to post it. If you have a password that makes you, it gives you the prompt, but makes you enter that password. So it kind of, you have to think about it. And you actually, depending on your office situation, you actually have to have that password to post to a closed period, just like that.
So yeah, I put an entry in for the period that I just closed. So in making this journal entry, it's going to prompt me that, oh, I'm in the wrong year. Or do I really want to do this? So don't want to do that. Now, if I move it to the current year, entry made. So are there any questions on closing, how to close the books at year end?
And if you go up to company and set closing date, it takes you to the same place.
Oh, wait,
Cancel there.
company.
Yep,
Okay.
takes you to the same place.
I'm used to using the preferences. We all use this a little bit differently. You'll notice when Bonnie pulls up her screen, it's going to look different than mine. This is just the way that I like to see my screen. Kind of old school, I guess, in that way.
That's why you have my preferences and company preferences.
Yeah, so you'll notice that our screens look different over here. So updating preferences, same thing. What specifically, Bonnie, what did we have in mind for?
Just to understand that you have both my preferences and company preferences. Those are the two things. If you notice at the top, the two tabs, yep. So my preferences applies to your login when you go in to QuickBooks, whether it be colors or dates or whatever. Whereas company preferences apply to anyone that logs into QuickBooks. Those preferences will be the same for everyone. For the accounting, and Mandy, I'll just chime in here if you're okay with that. So under the accounting for company preferences, I always recommend the require accounts, yes. The set closing date and password. And this is also where you turn on for closing for the class transactions. So if you want to use classes in QuickBooks, that's where you would turn this on at. under my preferences, I'm not sure what's in there, Mandy.
There's nothing in my preferences other than autofill,
Autofill the memo in the journal entry.
which is nice.
Yes, it is. Under general, I think that's the other one I like to see. Under my preferences, a couple things that I usually set in this, that little beep when recording a transaction, I usually turn that off unless I'm sitting beside someone that I want to annoy. In that case, I'm going to check mark that so that I can drive them berserk when I'm working in QuickBooks. I also like to turn off the pop-up messages. You'll notice, especially when you go with the subscription base, if you're not already in running 2022, you're going to get pop-up messages, whether it be for connecting your accounts or purchasing checks and 1099s. You're going to get these pop-up messages all the time. That's how you can turn those off. And those, I just don't want to see them. I also like to have my date set to use today's date as the default. Otherwise, if it's used the last entered date as default, if I enter an invoice for May 31st, when I go to enter my next invoice, it's automatically going to default to May 31st. I want it today as of today's date, especially if I'm doing the write checks feature instead of enter bills, pay bills. I want the checks to be dated today, and I don't want to have to think about it every single time I enter a transaction. The one other thing that I'm going to kind of let Mandy take on this is and those are just straightforward. There are a ton of preferences in here that you can set. What's under company? Yeah, how you show your decimal point, keeping yourself logged in for how long. Let me see. Reports and graphs, you can set defaults for that. If you're cash versus accrual, you can set your defaults on that. Let me see what else pops in my mind right away. Oh, under payroll and employees, how your earnings items are applied in each paycheck, how your pay stub appears. Do you want to mask that social security number or not? Employee defaults, you want first name first, last name first. How do you want it displayed? You can also set up what Mandy just clicked on with setting up. Yeah, if you have the same employees or the same, everybody pretty much has the same setup. They have regular pay, hourly pay, that everybody gets sick and vacation. Everybody's on biweekly payroll schedule. You can set this up in this screen as a default template for adding a new employee. So you don't have to start from the ground zero every time you add someone. And then I'm going to let Mandy take it away on the 1099s, because that is something else that is in this screen that makes a big difference. And Mandy, if you are not aware, Mandy is kind of our 1099 guru in the Chambersburg office. She kind of takes the lead on processing 1099s for all of our clients at the end of the year. That's one of her areas of expertise. And she is also on our SALT group, which is our sales and use tax group. And that is another area of expertise for her. So she works with a group of individuals within our firm that focus on specializing in the sales and use tax and filings and compliance. Okay, Mandy, I'm going to shut up.
You're fine. Was it going to let us go through a wizard though, or are we going to get stopped?
It may tell you you're going to have to do a backup.
So
See if it does.
Oh, okay.
Don't take a deep breath yet. It may tell you when you get started.
I know I just updated this one this morning, so maybe we're okay. I don't know.
Ah,
All right. So what I'm in right now is actually the 1099 wizard. And there's two ways you can get there: through the edit preferences, and you can also get there through vendors, 1099 forms, print, e-file is what I'm in right now. So two parts of the 1099 setup in QuickBooks. You need to first identify your vendors. And then the second thing is you need to identify the accounts that those vendors are being posted to. So this one kind of has a little bit of default information in here.
That you, Heather. Okay.
So you want to make sure that your information is complete: vendor name, tax ID, company name, address, all that good stuff. And then here you're going to map. This is where you map your accounts. You can do show 1099 accounts, or I like to do show all accounts so that I can make sure that I'm picking up all the miscellaneous accounts that people like to stuff potential 1099 vendors in. But your main ones are going to be the service accounts, the subcontractor accounts. Like here's income. I don't want to look at the income accounts. Hopefully I don't want to look at the income accounts. Although we found that we've had to go back and issue some corrected 1099s because we did get sometimes people will place subcontract labor in an income account versus the cost of goods sold account. So.
Mandy, do you want to mention anything about the two types of 1099s?
Yeah, so I am actually looking at the NEC, which is the non-employee comp. And then the other one is what used to be encompassed. So the NEC used to be encompassed under the miscellaneous. The miscellaneous still exists. It's used more now so for rents and other income types. But now the most common one that you're going to see now is the 1099 NEC. And when you're mapping these accounts, you want, so I'm on NEC, so I don't want to look at equipment rental.
So that would be primarily for anybody acting as a subcontractor, which would include janitorial, people doing repairs and maintenance, professional services, attorneys, accountants, engineering, anyone doing that type of service. We do have a question, Mandy.
Okay.
How do you handle mapping 1099s to a vendor that you paid by credit card where the payment was made to the credit card company? And I know we were going to touch on that, but go ahead.
So the way QuickBooks kind of handles credit cards a little bit differently. And that happened when the 1099K was introduced a few years back, about 2017, maybe, I think is when that came out. So actually, if you are paying a vendor with a credit card, and those are actually reported by the credit card processor on the 1099K and would be excluded from your 1099 reporting. Does that answer the question?
So when you're entering those payments into QuickBooks,
if you identify it with any type of CC, ACH, any type of memo, or like in the check number with those types, anything that QuickBooks is going to identify that that's a credit card payment, they're going to automatically exclude it from the 1099 reporting.
If you're doing your credit cards through enter credit card charges and reconciling, QuickBooks is automatically going to see that that's paid by a credit card. If you enter your bills into as enter bills, okay, and then you decide to pay that vendor by credit card in the pay bills screen, then it also knows that it is paid by a credit card, and QuickBooks will not include that in your reporting.
Correct. And I believe that's something we actually figured out by trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even if you enter the credit card, a lot of people don't go through the features that QuickBooks has for paying and entering credit card charges. But if you just enter it in as a bill to the credit card company and then list all your charges for the month, and I know a lot of people do that and pay the credit card in full. If you do that, it's not going to pick up those charges to a vendor. One, you're not connecting it with a vendor name, but it's connected to a credit card company, which you do not want to mark as a credit card vendor. I mean, as a 1099 vendor. So all the way around, you should be good. Another one, Mandy, can quick repeat where 1099 is for rent. And I think you're getting to that, right?
I am, yeah. So I'm
Okay.
on the EC one right now.
Okay.
So this is kind of walking through the rest of the wizard here. They'll allow you to print them. What? Is it gonna let me go the whole way through? Nope.
I don't know.
Nope.
Yeah. So that's just telling you there was no vendors in with sufficient payment.
Yeah. So, and yeah,
You have unmapped accounts. That's why.
yeah. Because I only picked up, I think, repairs and
Right.
and so for the rents, they are on the 1099 miscellaneous still. So when you go into the wizard initially, you see the mapping for the 1099 NEC and 1099 miscellaneous. So all of your rent payments are going to be picked up on this miscellaneous. They're still in box 1. For miscellaneous for us, I know the most common ones are box 1, which is your rent, and box 3, which is other income. So all accounts, you would pick up your rent accounts. Is there a rent account in here?
There is.
Equipment rental. And that's where you would map it to box 1 on the 1099 miscellaneous. See, it says included payments, but nothing come through.
See where here it has total unmapped accounts, total included in 1099.
Yeah,
That's something to look at too, because if you know you have a certain amount for a vendor and it doesn't make sense that that amount isn't agreed, if you click on that unmapped payments, it'll show you what is mapped, what is sitting in an account that you do not have mapped for 1099s.
so this one's gas and electric, which
Right.
makes to me.
So you can drill down there. Yes.
So I'm just gonna put this one in rent just because, oh wait, no, I
No,
probably
don't do that one.
don't do this one.
Don't do that one. Go to another one.
Let's just pick up a check.
Just, yeah. Don't want to do that one either.
It's not gonna let me. All right, we can do it this way though.
You have to close out of that screen.
Completely? No.
No, you should be okay now. What do you have that posted to?
I thought it was equipment rental.
Yeah,
Income.
that's income.
Yeah, that's the wrong account.
There you go. Up
This
there.
one here.
Yep.
And now I'm wondering if I'm on my right date. I guess we'll find out. Nope. Can I get back to that check? No. I'm not on the right date.
Yeah, it's being difficult.
So we'll just do it again. We'll put it back into the other year.
There you go.
All right, so it remembered, because of my preferences, it remembered where I posted that last check to.
Change your date.
So we're just gonna change this to 22. What's my password? Okay,
There you go.
now it put it, because I had mapped that, it put it into our mapped, it's gonna be included on the 1099 miscellaneous in box 1 as rent. Any questions about, any additional questions about mapping 1099s?
I don't see anything right now. All right, so if you unshare your screen, I'll share mine.
Okay,
Okay. Make sure I get the right one. Okay, can you see my screen?
yes.
Yep, those I can. All right, so I am going to go over bank and credit card reconciliations. Mandy, keep an eye, if you would, on any questions coming up, because I can't see them as they're coming through.
Yep.
And just for a point of reference, I do not have flowers and horns. It is a picture of a cow. So
She doesn't have a halo either, so don't let that fool you.
So just for the record. All right, so let's talk about the bank and credit card reconciliation. So I'm sure you are, if you're working in QuickBooks, you are doing your bank reconciliations. Okay. Go to banking, that's a transfer of funds, banking and reconcile. And you can, of course, select your account that you're going to reconcile and then get the reports that you want from here. Now, what if, and I'm going to do some what if scenarios here. What if that beginning balance is not correct? And of course, it has this little thing here that says, what if my beginning balance doesn't match my statement? And it should. But if it doesn't, that usually tells me that you've changed a transaction that you have already cleared in a prior bank reconciliation. So the way to kind of pinpoint that is to go to reports, banking, and down here is reconciliation discrepancy. And that would give me, you select account, and that would give me a list of any transactions that I had changed, whether it be to void something that I reconciled, if I deleted something that was already reconciled, although I will constantly remind people not to delete. Delete is bad because it removes all record of a transaction. Just to give you a little bit of my brain on where I go with this. So if every time you record a transaction in accounting software, it creates a transaction number. Nothing you can necessarily see, but it's kind of behind the scenes. And everything has a transaction number. So if your file, and several years back, the IRS said, oh, well, as part of an audit, an IRS audit, we can request a copy of your QuickBooks file. If they see gaps in transaction numbers, that to them identifies that you're deleting transactions, and that you want to avoid that. That's why one of the other things that I do, and I'm going to try not to get off track too much, but I always feel like everything I share is worthwhile. So one of the things I like to do is run a missing check report. So rather than voiding a check or deleting a check, I prefer to void. And I'm going to share, one of us is going to share some information on that here in a bit. But I like to void a check. It leaves the detail in on those transactions. if I had a printing error on a check, I will still, I have been known to put them in the printer, they're going the wrong way, and I print on the back instead of the front of the check. I will still enter that check, but I have an account, usually number it 999 if you use account numbers, and that is my voided check account. So at least that way I don't have missing transactions. If I was to run my missing check report, I would be able to see all of my checks. See how this shows up, missing numbers, missing numbers? It won't give you that. That way I know I've accounted for every single check and they should all be in order all the way down. You don't want to see these missing numbers. It's the same with invoices, deleting an invoice. Again, QuickBooks behind the scenes, or any accounting software for that matter, assigns transaction numbers to pretty much anything you record. So deleting will cause gaps in those numbers. So it will also, back to what I was originally talking about, was it will cause your beginning balance to be off from the bank. If it's a prior reconciled transaction, it is going to cause your beginning balance to be off, and you're going to have to put that back in place and figure out another way to deal with it. So I want you to be aware of that. Now we all know that, you know, you go in, you hit continue, you're going to reconcile the bank account. Pretty straightforward. Your deposits are on this side, checks are on this side, ACH, POS transactions, whatever they may be. However, one of the things I wanted to mention is something that a lot of people don't use is following the same process as it relates to your credit cards. More and more people are dealing with credit cards in businesses, and the easiest way that I know to handle them is to set them up as an actual credit card in QuickBooks. You can do this by going to your chart of accounts under list, and you will notice, see how these say credit card, credit card. Now I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit as to what that little squiggly line is there beside that here in a few, but these are set up as actual credit cards. It's similar to a bank account in the way a bank account is treated in QuickBooks. What you will do, and when you go to set the account up, you're going to go to new, and you'll notice right here, credit card. And we're going to hit continue, and it flashes around. We're going to do city credit card. Okay. You can put your credit card account number in here, hit save and close. Now it says, oh, by the way, you can save time by setting up your credit card with online services. This is a really nice feature. This initially we see a lot in QuickBooks, anyone using QuickBooks Online. But this is called bank feeds, and you're going to hear me talk about that. Well, I'm going to kind of venture into that a little bit here in a few, but this actually pulls the information. It connects up, or you connect it up with your credit card website within QuickBooks, and they talk, and you can import your transactions. And if your credit card is used a lot, that is huge in the amount of time you spend using data and doing data entry. So if you can connect those up, and then it will import, I think on a daily basis, and I think you can push the transactions to download in the middle of the day to make sure that all your transactions are in. And then you are able to reconcile this credit card just like you do your bank account. When you get the statement, no different, get the statement, put your ending balance in from your statement, add in any interest or any credit card fees that you may have, and you handle it just like a bank reconciliation. Your payment that you made to your credit card will be on the right-hand side of the screen. Your charges will be on the left-hand side. You can enter your transactions for your credit card by going up under banking and entering credit card charges. But what if you have a credit? So we're gonna enter a couple of
Just
transactions.
before you go too further on that, if you're downloading transactions, you don't want to then go in and manually enter the transactions because it will duplicate things. So that's
Yep.
just a word of caution when you're using any kind of bank feed.
Thank you. I kind of forgot that. But yes, you do not want to end up with duplicate transactions.
It's a mess.
Can be. It can. So I'm going to click save and new, but what if, now this is if I don't have them connected and they're not importing from the credit card site online. And then if I have a refund, some people aren't necessarily comfortable with having all these things talk to one another online with the QuickBooks file. People always have a concern about security, and that concern is valid. So they may want to just enter the transactions as they go along. And then we're going to do for a credit. So let's say you made a purchase from Amazon and you returned it. You can go in and enter refund credit here. There we go. Just make sure the next time, you noticed when I hit save and new, it stays on refund credit. You have to make sure that you can click it back over to purchase and charge. You don't want to enter all those credits. Now I am able, once I have all those transactions entered, to come up to banking and reconcile. There's my city credit card. I had no beginning balance. I can enter my ending balance from my statement, any finance charges, and put the date in and tell it what account to post to. And I can tell you that once you set this account, it will default to that moving forward. And now my credit card is right here. So here is my credit that I had. Here is my charge, and I'm off $50. So the credit must have not come through on this statement. Now I've got zero difference and I can finish my reconciliation. Works really well. It is a way to keep your credit cards in check. But one of the things I wanted, or the next thing I wanted to talk about, was your bank feeds. And that is when you are connecting up. So now this one's a little different than the QuickBooks Online, which I'm used to working with that. Let me see. If I go to banking, I believe it is. If you look down here, it says bank feeds, and there is a bank feed center. Now, if you see it says set up bank feed for an account, that bank feed is where you're connecting it with your either bank or credit card company online. It does give you a list of participating financial institutions. Let me see. And it'll tell you more about the different features that you have. But if you go into bank feeds, I'll show you what it looks like. So they've got a couple sample ones set up here. So here is the Anytime Financial Institution. I can choose to download transactions. I can't do it because we're in a sample file. If, let me see, there are no transactions to review on this one, no alerts. I'm pretty sure there was one. Oh, okay, so here's this one that has one transaction waiting to be added to QuickBooks. So understand when those transactions come in, it goes into a list. It doesn't automatically post it unless you have rules set up to do so. So if I go to my transaction list, I've got one transaction that needs reviewed, And here it is. So this is what pulled in from my credit card company online. And I can go in and review this. It comes up and says, okay, do I want to quick add it? Do I want to add more details? You can do that. And it'll open it so I can add more details. I know it looks a little foreign, but you can select your account that you're posting it to and not the credit card account. It knows what credit card it is. You want to select your expense account or whatever, cost of goods, whatever type of account it is. I'm just going to select an account there. You're able to put a memo in, assign it to a customer job, say if it's billable, assign a class, and you can put a memo here as well. You can also assign a number to it. Tells you what it is, and now you can add it to QuickBooks. But you can also, I'm going to do that. Now it comes up and says, now when I try to add it, it says QuickBooks is going to set up a rule for me. So rules are something that you create along the way as you have these accounts connected up. And it says what a rule does is it says if this certain criteria applies to a transaction coming in, you set the criteria, then QuickBooks is going to handle it a certain way. So if, let's say we have, if you notice here, it says if the description contains Mendoza Mechanical, we're going to rename the payee to Mendoza Mechanical and categorize it to this account. So you can set these rules up, you go along. You can also edit a rule. You can ignore it. You can also come down here and manage rules. Let me get out of this first. So I'm gonna hit OK. And now you see it says one was added and approved. So if you look at the top up here, there is an area for rules. And you can come in, and it's much, much easier to do as you go along. The more transactions you record. One that comes to mind is Staples. Anything I buy from Staples, I always want it to be set to office supplies. That's a great example. But the way this information comes in from the bank, especially if you're doing this with your bank, and also with credit cards is a little different. The bank's really bad as far as what wording you get on the field. But from credit cards, it's pretty straightforward. And you can say, I want to edit this rule. What do I want to do with it? And here's where you can edit it. We have a rule. Anything that contains, and you have different options, starts with, ends with, matches exactly. Okay, and you fill in the information here. You want the payee field to be, so it includes the vendor, and then you can tell it where to categorize. And categorize to the following account, and you can tell it where it goes. And then just click save, and then that rule, eventually, as you start doing this, you're going to get a whole list of rules here. And you can tell it to, I believe you can tell the rules to auto enter too, as you are edit. Now, this one does not give you the choice in desktop. It doesn't give you the choice to auto enter, which is probably a good thing. I don't specifically care for something auto entering something. In QuickBooks Online, you can. So hopefully that makes sense. Mandy, do we got any questions on that?
No. No question.
Oh. This feature only downs transactions and not credit card statement. That is correct. It does not show you the statement. So typically what you would see when you are back on this screen, see how this says, this is the credit card balance. This is what your balance is in QuickBooks. You would expect them to be close unless you've made a payment. So I know a lot of times the bank account, that's what's nice with bank accounts when you connect them up, especially if you do a lot of ACH or POS, automatic transactions coming out of your account. Connecting up your bank account is super nice. It does not provide you the statement. No, you would still either have to go to your credit card website and download that, or go to the bank website, download, or wait for them to come in paper form. But for the most part, you would expect to see the balance in QuickBooks the same as the balance in your credit card website. And that's what this would be. Okay.
And just while we're on this credit card stuff, while you're in the bank feed section, that is where you can download the transactions. And also if you go back to the enter credit card charges, there's a button there that'll allow you to download the transactions as well.
Good, thanks.
Yep.
Okay, that's a lot of information on these credit cards. I will tell you that it is a handy feature if you're considering doing it. If you need help, feel free to reach out to one of us. But if you have a lot of transactions going on in your credit cards or even in your bank account with POS or automatic transactions, that's a great way to streamline things. All right, so the next thing, moving on, the next thing I wanted to talk about was setting up budget. I did have a question about that. So in order to set up a budget in QuickBooks, you are going to go to company, and you are going to go down to planning and budgeting, and you are going to set up budgets. Now we have a budget here, but what if I want to create a new one? I can do that, and I can, let me see, it wants you to specify the year and the type for the new budget. So let's say I'm going to do a 2024, and I only want to do a P&L budget. And I'm going to, I want to do it by class? You can, or we're just going to leave it to no additional criteria. And we're going to hit next. And we can choose to create a budget from scratch, entering just hard canned numbers in, or you can create a budget from the previous year's actual data. If your numbers change a lot from month to month, that's nice, because you know when your high and low points are on expenses, depending on the type of business. So we are going to create it from scratch, and I'm going to click finish. And this is where it's going to come up and give me all my accounts. And I can come in here and just start from the top and work my way down on this budget. So my designing income, let's say I estimate for the year, we're going to have X number of dollars per month. So we're going to have 15,000 in design income for the whole year. If I type that in, if you note down here, I can copy that amount across. This is great on like utilities and rent and those types of things that are consistent throughout the year. Or I can simply go back, and this gives you your total by line, or I can come in and change certain months. Let's say my design income is higher in my summer months, spring and summer months. So I'm going to take this to 17. Just because you copy it across doesn't mean you can't change it. And then you can just keep tabbing down to the next line. And you are going to enter your budgets. And, or if you messed up and you want to start over, you can hit clear and it'll clear it so you can start all over. When you get done, you want to hit save and then okay. Pretty straightforward. There are not a lot of budget reports. You'll notice if you go under reports, you've got budgets. This is going to give you a budget overview. It's not going to be much here. But there's my income that I just put in for my budget, and it'll give it to you by month. We can come up to this report and just have it show by year. Or I can have it show by, excuse me, quarter. That's the budget overview. The other thing it has where you can do a budget versus actual or a profit and loss budget performance, and it'll also give it to you in a graph. Just very little differences between those reports. One's going to give you year-to-date and total annual budget, and the other is just going to give you, I think it's month over month. Any questions there on budgets? Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is the invoicing. Not a lot to cover here. You can, so if we go up to our customer center, we're just simply going to create an invoice. Just want to touch on a couple things here. You can assign by class. If I select. Now, if you have billable expenses that things that you've been marking as billable, you can pull them up here and you can select from the list. Depending on the type of business. If not, I can choose not to pull any of those in, and you can select the template, the invoice template that you want to use. We're going to do a progress invoice. You can customize templates by going up to view, no, wait a minute, not view, I'm sorry, list, and down to your templates. And you can go in and customize any of these receipts, packing slips, and you can design them as you need them to be according to what your business requires. And I'm going to select my item. My quantity. Fill out all the information going across. Now, note, if you set a class up here, that will apply to the whole invoice. Every line item on the invoice. If I have 20 items on here, it's going to apply to whatever class I select. If you're using classes, if you select it here, it's going to apply to each individual line, whatever. So if you have something where you want to assign it to multiple classes, you're going to want to assign the class here if you're using classes. And once I'm done with the invoice, I can hit save and close. Your taxes down here. If you have, let's say we have a customer, we're going to receive the payment. And if you're generating invoices out of QuickBooks, you want to go through the receive payment window to receive payments against those invoices. Don't go directly to your deposit screen and do that, because it will not clear the invoice out of your customer list, out of your accounts receivable listing. So we're going to select customer. There's the invoice I just generated. Date. Tell it check. And you're going to see that it applied it. But actually, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to have a customer pay too much. And you see, it says down here that you've got to leave the credit to be used later. Okay. And I am going to hit save and close. So it says a credit will remain on the customer's account. You can print credit memo to save the transaction and print a credit memo, or you can click OK and save the transaction. Well, we're going to hit OK. Now, if I go back to this customer, and this is always a little tricky. I want to go to my customer center, pull up the customer. I go to this payment, I believe I can come back into this payment. I see that I have a $30. What do we want to do? We want to refund the amount to the customer. It's not a customer job list. To automatically add the customer job list, click add Okay.
You changed your customer name.
Oh, dagnabbit. Okay, there we go. Refund. There we go. And we are going to hit save and close. You want to record your changes. Yes. Now issue a refund. A refund due to this person, issue it as a check or a credit to their MasterCard, Visa, whatever. So we're going to do it via check. Select the checking account and it's marked to be printed. This is so easy. It almost makes it too easy. Now, if I go to file, print forms and checks, there is my refund to the customer. And all I got to do is print it on check stock. Hopefully that helped there. One of the other questions, and I'm trying to move this along, one of the other questions that we had was how to record fees, I believe, for credit card income for services, how to record the fees. Well, there's a couple of different ways to do that. And my suggestion is to look at your bank statement. So are you getting credit card, you're processing a credit card transaction, does it come through on your bank statement and you're getting a net amount? So it's the amount that you were to get less the fee, or are you being charged fees separately as a separate line item on your bank statement? That's the important thing to know. So if you are charged fees per transaction, and if I go to banking, I'm going to make deposits. I have a deposit here. Okay, let's say this was actually by credit card. Okay. I would come in here. We've already posted the payments. The one we just did, we posted the payment to the customer invoice. So now we're in this deposit, but let's say it was actually by credit card. And your fee is reduced off of the payment amount that you're getting. So your payment should have been $100, but what hits your bank statement is $90 because they take $10 in fees. What I can do on this is come down to the next line, leave this line the way it is, come down to the next line and do, I can do bank service charges. You may want to have a separate account set up. If you're doing a lot of credit card activity, you may want to have a separate account set up, merchant fees. So you can kind of gauge how much you're actually putting out in credit card fees. And we are going to come over here and put a negative $10, and I can just put a note, merchant fee. This is the amount that's going to hit my bank statement, and that's what's important. You want to make sure you're treating this in the right way so that if it's coming through on your bank statement, less the fees, that's what your net deposit should be. So it makes it a little bit easier when you go to reconcile. That way your deposits in QuickBooks are going to match to the deposits hitting your bank statement, and hit save and close. And that will show, one, it shows in your check register that you only got $90 there. You only got the $90. Your fee is already off of there. You've already recorded the expense coming through as well. If you're being charged fees, which I see a lot at the end of each month, you can simply in your bank reconciliation screen, put them here as bank service charges, or you can change it to merchant fees. You could also enter them as a journal entry and post it to merchant fees or bank fees. Okay. I'm talking
Bonnie?
a lot. Yes.
I had a direct message come in for a question for you.
Okay.
I received a notification that quote, as of June 15, 2022, Microsoft will be ending support for Internet Explorer 11, which is your default browser in your version of QuickBooks Desktop. This may introduce a future security vulnerability to your QuickBooks Desktop. Do I need to be concerned about this?
Well, a couple things there. So Internet Explorer has been gone for a while. So my suggestion would be, and this is probably something you'll want to talk to your IT person about, or someone that you work with regards to your computer. You can, if you go into your preferences, and that's a good question. I was not aware that those messages were coming through. You can look at email. I'm wondering. No, it's not email, it's your connection. Service connection. I would think. Mandy, any thoughts on this?
No.
Yeah,
I haven't used Internet Explorer. I'm used to Google Chrome now, so.
yeah. Read that to me again.
Sure. Okay, so it says, as of June 15th, 2022, Microsoft will be ending support for Internet Explorer 11, which is your default browser in your version of QuickBooks Desktop. This may introduce a future security vulnerability to your QuickBooks Desktop. I will also copy and paste the quote into the chat for everyone else to see.
Yeah.
I've not heard anything about that. I do know with, boy, this is a new one on me.
Yeah.
I've not heard anything about this. I do know that with QuickBooks Online, the preferred browser, you actually can't use Internet Explorer. You can, but you're not going to like the response you get. Yeah, somebody else responded, and thank you for that. You just have to use a different browser. I agree with that, but I'm wondering if there isn't a preference in here as to what browser you mean, to what, if there's a default in QuickBooks, but I am not seeing anything in here with regards to QuickBooks is run by my browser. Don't use it after Web Connect is done. Yeah, I would have thought it had been here under service connection, but I'm not seeing anything in there either. But yeah, I agree. You are going to have to use a different browser. I know QuickBooks does like Google Chrome. And I do know that Internet Explorer, I was aware that Microsoft was canceling. Actually, Microsoft, I don't believe, has been supported for a while, or it's not being, it's not being supported. It hasn't been for a while.
So an update to that question. She said, we do not use Internet Explorer, we use Chrome. I'm wondering if this is a legitimate notice.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna copy that real quick. And I'm actually gonna paste that onto my desktop, and I want to research that a little bit. That's a good question. You do have to be careful. I will give you this. It didn't like me copying and pasting that. I will tell you, you have to be cautious. If you ever call QuickBooks or try to get support, and you go out to the internet and search on the internet for QuickBooks support, you have to be really cautious there. Last year, there was a whole rash of people that were doing that. I had a couple clients that called me in a panic because they went out to the internet, tried to get QuickBooks support. It come up with this number. It looked legit. They call this number. They allow the people to log into their computer because they think they're getting help. and lo and behold, they have taken files on their system and locked them out of their QuickBooks file. And kind of hold their file hostage. So you have got to be super, super cautious. I do know that Internet Explorer is not being supported anymore. QuickBooks does like Chrome, and I think that's the one that we use all the time, Mandy, if I'm not mistaken. So
I use Google.
yeah, I would be very cautious on things like this. Did this message, and I'll ask this, oh, so we got more than one person getting this. Is this coming up in your QuickBooks file?
I'm Googling it and it won't let me hyperlink to it. So I'm trying to see what the message is.
Yeah, so we've got multiple people that have gotten the same message. And I do not have, it was emailed from QuickBooks.
Says
Wow.
all you do is update to the latest release to make sure you receive future security updates.
Okay. So just make
So-
sure.
Update your QuickBooks desktop file. Are your automatic updates on?
So you can do that. Oh, goodness. I have to remember how to get in and do this. Customers. No,
Is
it's
it-
not going to be there.
Is it window?
Go to help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there you go. So about automatic updates, update QuickBooks desktop.
That's what it needs to do.
Yep, there you go.
And if you're running payroll, automatic updates should be on anyway.
Yeah,
It's not fun when you go to run a payroll and your taxes are not updated accordingly. And you don't realize it till after you process the payroll.
well, this is where you can, this is where you can set up your connection to the internet. But, and that was under under the help. But yeah, do your updates then. Just make sure that you're updating your desktop. I will add that if you are running payroll, I would strongly encourage you to run payroll updates before running every payroll. There have been more and more issues with if you're not doing the updates for some unknown reason, it comes in, even if you run the update and you go in to run your next payroll, you're not, it comes up and tells you you don't have to, it tells you you don't have to run a payroll update, but then there's no withholdings, no Social Security, no Medicare, no federal, none of that. So I would just strongly encourage you before every payroll, just go in, go under employees and get payroll updates and just let it run. It only takes a minute and it's better than having to go back and recreate all your paychecks because you will have to go back, delete your payroll and then rerun it.
Mhm.
So just a word of caution there. That's gotten to be a pretty popular problem. I did show how to add a payment to an invoice or purchase order. I'm assuming that is referring to adding payments to an invoice.
I just put the link to that article for updating QuickBooks in the chat.
Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, Mandy. All right. Mandy, I am going to pass it back to you. I've done a whole lot of talking.
Hey, Mandy, before you get going, we did have another question pop in. Let's see, when reconciling an account on the begin reconciliation, I will add the interest earned and select the account and class. But when QuickBooks adds the interest entry, it does not assign a class to the entry. Any idea what would resolve this issue?
Interesting. You could go back. My only suggestion would be, I'm not sure why it's not assigning the class to it, would be to go in to the transaction, like pull up your P&L, go to the transaction, go to the account, or go to your chart of accounts and go to the account that you assign it to. Double click on it there and see if you can add the class there. I've not heard about that in the past. Not sure why it won't. I mean, it does give you that option, but yeah, I'm not sure. Have you gone into your bank rec and then gone back and double checked to make sure the class stayed in that field? I would do that before you close out of your bank rec. I would maybe try that. Okay, Mandy, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and let you take it. You good?
I was. All right, can we see QuickBooks?
Yep.
Okay. So reports by class. So pulling a report, we'll just do a P&L by class. Okay, this one did. So if you're using class tracking, it's as simple as going to the report that you want to pull up and just choose this one is the P&L by class and choose it by class. It will give you, so here that entry that I entered, I have some unclassified transaction because I didn't select a class for it. In that case, we can go in here and select a class and now we have nothing in unclassified. There was a question about setting a default class for a vendor. I'm not aware that you can do that. We can go in here. You can set accounts, but I'm not aware of being able to set up a class. So yeah, if you
I had looked as well and I could not see.
Yeah, if you want to set a default account, not a class. So not aware of any way to do that, unfortunately. Formatting a P&L. So I'm looking at it for, you can choose month, you can look at it by month, you can look at it by the quarter, look at it this year through last month. You can manually select your dates. And you can also memorize these reports if you are looking at a same report frequently in even a same group of report. Click on memorize, and I don't know if there's any other groups in here. We'll just throw it into accountant. Just took a picture of it. So now that when I come up to my memorized report group, it's going to be in there. You can customize them, set different filters. You can change titles on them if you want to. Change your font. So this is where you would go to if you want to change the appearance of your report. And that's just in the customize. You can change your basis if for some reason you're in accrual and you need to see something on cash, you can change it here. And change how you are. I don't know if that's good. Yeah. So formatting, adjusting, customizing, this is where you would come to do that and select, just this customized report. And I don't know specifically what, you can customize it specifically to your needs it would be in this area. Any other questions on that? Did I answer the question on formatting?
Let me see here. We do have a question. Can you customize your P&L to see 2 different years next to each other? Oh, yeah.
So just come in and select previous year. Or previous period. Again, that's gonna, year versus period is gonna depend on one, your dates and what other formatting you already have set up in there. So,
One of the things, stay there, Mandy,
yeah,
and I'll do something. One of the things that I like to see is look at a business over a period of, let's say, 4 or 5 years. And what you can do here is, Mandy, go up to that from and to and change that from 1/1/2018 to 12/31/22. And then if you keep that display columns by year, but unclick your previous year. There you go, hit OK. Now I can see the P&L for a whole 5-year period. So it's opening up your date range and just how do you want to see it? You could see it by quarter. If you go to the display columns by and change the year to by quarter. There you go.
another
So-
thing, there's a lot of zeros on these reports.
Yes.
You come in here, you can get rid of all of those zeros. So probably not a good example on a 5-year report, but probably
Yeah.
on a 2-year report or even an annual report, like any account, like if this was just looking at for this year, anything with a 0 in would go away. Like we were looking at this by 2 years, this 0 account would go away. So any other questions on customizing reports or filtering reports to see for your specific needs?
I'm not seeing anything right now.
Okay. I think we turn it back over to you.
Okay.
Stop here.
And I will share mine real quick. Okay. All right. So I'm going to hit on a couple things, some of the stuff that was coming up in as questions. I believe some of the attendees are from municipalities, whether that's townships, boroughs, or whatever, and want to know about reports for elected auditors. And I'm assuming it says auditors that come in at the end of the year and are taking a look at your books. And this would apply to pretty much any business. But what I like to do, I don't have any, well, I guess I could give you some suggestions. One, what I'd like to do is set up a memorized group. So if I come over to reports and go down to memorized reports, and I encourage you to take advantage of the memorized report center, because this is nice. I have clients that I work with on a weekly basis and have to provide reports to, whether that's, and what I usually provide is a monthly check report, a monthly deposit report, detail on certain accounts, a P&L, a balance sheet. And what I do is I have them preset. So I take one of the regular reports, I can take a balance sheet, I can filter it down, make all the specific changes, get it looking just like I want, and then memorize that into a group. Now, what I like to do is come up to first to my memorized report center. And here, if you go to memorized reports and click memorized report list, okay? And what I would do would be to add a new group. And you can, in the screen, you can add, take away, anything you want to do in here. You can right click, you can edit it. You can delete a memorized report. You can customize the columns in this screen. So we go to a new group, and I am going to do Auditors Year End Reports. I'm going to hit OK. Now I've got the group set up for me. Now I'm going to come in, and what I would typically, I would think what your auditors will be, the auditors would be looking for would be, I sit on the side of the building with all the auditors. I'm really trying to traipse lightly here. So I would define this report how they want it, put the information in, and then I would come up and memorize, add it to Auditors Year-End Reports. Okay, it took a picture of it. That was supposed to be a camera clicking. I would also, for my auditors, add a P&L standard or year-to-date comparison or previous year comparison, where the question was asked last, how can I get your side by side? Go to your profit and loss previous year comparison. It'll do the same thing. Okay, I don't have to see the change there. I'm really not interested in seeing that. So I can take those fields out, do last fiscal year. It gives me years side by side, memorize it, put it in my group for my auditors. Okay, that's my next one. They usually like to see a trial balance, or always like to see a trial balance. I can come down here, run that.
Yeah, I do like
Do last fiscal year, memorize that.
yes. The Tesseract.
I'm going to show you something pretty cool. All right. So those are the three that I can think of right off the bat. The other one I would say they are definitely going to want to see would be a payroll summary. If you're running payroll, you're going to want to see a payroll summary for the year. That's another one. Just kind of looking down through, you may want to run detail on any new fixed asset purchases. So if you go to your balance sheet and run detail on your fixed asset accounts, they would like to see that as well. Your vendors are going to want to see an AP aging summary to see what you have sitting in accounts payable at the end of the year. Same with accounts receivable. You're going to want to run a accounts receivable aging summary so they can see what you have sitting in accounts receivable. Those are ones for sure I can tell you right off the bat they're going to want. But then, I mean, I know we have something called SureLink that you can upload those reports up to. Another option you have when you have memorized reports set up like this, I can go to my memorized report list. Now I can go down to those auditor reports. If I click on the trial balance, I can come down here and bear with me here a minute. I can. Now, why isn't it not letting me?
Go to reports.
Huh?
Are you trying to print a group?
Yeah,
Go to reports. Up at the top.
I know. Reports.
Process multiple.
Oh, thank you. Good Lordy. Okay. Now I can
And then
come
you
to
can
my
select
member.
your,
I can select my group. Okay. Here I got it. I can select my date range, and you can just update that year over year, and I can hit email. Okay. And it just says it's going to send it through the internet, email. It's not secure. There's no sensitive information. I don't have social security numbers or anything like that on my reports. Hit OK. And then it's going to come up and tell me I can't send it out of a sample company. So, but it will allow you to do that. One of the other things that you can do, which I really like, is to comment. That's what I was looking for a minute ago, is to comment on reports. So if I open up this report, and where is it at? Comment on report. If you've got one of those reports open and you need to make a note for your auditors, you can simply come up where I just was. Okay, come up here, comment on report, click that, and then you can come in here, click what account you want to make a note about. This account is totally wrong. Hit save, and now they can see that there's a comment so that when you email it, anybody you're emailing it to, they're able to see that comment. So those are some pretty handy tools that I don't see used enough. And I know we're running close on time. So hopefully that helped. Take advantage of the memorized report and the memorized report groups. They're awesome. Daily check reports, checks or credits, deposits or debits. That was one of the questions that we had, and I'm not sure what report you're running, but just so on a daily check report, again, not being clear what report you're running, typically checks are a credit. It credits in the accounting world. When you write a check, it credits the bank account. When you make a deposit, it debits the bank account. So again, when you write a check, you are crediting the bank account, debiting an expense or some other account. So it's that two-sided accounting scenario. That's why it's coming up like that. I do have a question. Is there a way to password protect reports you send through email? That I don't know.
Coming directly from QuickBooks, probably not.
I have a feeling it's probably going through QuickBooks Server is what it's doing.
Yeah.
You want to Google that, Mandy, while I keep moving along?
Sure.
So that is the reason you have checks as credits, deposits as debits, because it's how the two-sided accounting deals with, deposits are truly a debit. A debit increases your cash account. A credit decreases your cash account. That's why it's showing like that. Voiding and deleting transactions. We touched on this a bit earlier. You do want to be careful, not deleting, but only voiding transactions. Remember that in QuickBooks, if you void a transaction, it voids it as of the date the transaction took place. So if you go back and need to void a check because you think it's a duplicate and it was done in a prior year, it's going to void it as of the date the check was originally issued. So it is going to mess up your prior year numbers. Now QuickBooks, and Mandy and I were discussing this morning, have yet to figure out the rhyme or reason as to when it does it, but QuickBooks will often come up and say, you're voiding a transaction in a prior year. Are you sure you want to do that? Number one, and do you want QuickBooks to record the entry for you? Hit yes, but you want to be careful. Just keep in mind that when you are voiding a transaction, it voids it as of the date the transaction is recorded in QuickBooks. You can do a journal entry yourself to reverse the entry in the current year. And I would suggest reaching out to a ProAdvisor or your accountant for help on that one, just to make sure it's being handled correctly. And I know I'm kind of swinging through this. One of the questions we got, and there's only 3 more, QuickBooks file is too large, how to condense the file. That does take some time. You can condense the QuickBooks file by going up to Utilities under File. and you're gonna see where it says condensed data. It is gonna walk you through a process. So if your QuickBooks file is getting large, you'll know because it's gonna take a while for it to open up reports. The program's gonna be running slower. So you can go to this condensed data. You have to be in as the administrator. It is going to push you to make a backup. I would caution you, you'll want to leave. I typically like to leave 7 years of the file intact and condense anything older than that. And it's going to ask you, it'll walk you through like a little interview screen as to what you want to get rid of. Do you want to get rid of unused vendors, unused customers, unused chart of accounts, that kind of information, but it will walk you through that process. And one of the other administrative things, we have someone raising their hand. Did you see that, Mandy, or I'm not seeing it anymore?
I don't see it anymore.
Okay. Importing accountant changes, the .qby files. A .qby file is where the accountant has made changes in a file and they want to send them to you so that you can import them into your QuickBooks file so that it's up to date. That's a nice way of doing things. We can do that with adjusting entries. It'll pick up accounts that we've added. And the way to do that is to go to, bear with me here a minute. I have to remember where it's at. File, import, utilities, import, and it'll show up a little differently. Utilities, import, and there is general journal entries. And then there is one that comes up, accountant changes, but it's going to be in this import feature under general journal entries. And it'll ask you, now it's looking for a QBJ file. Bear with me here a minute. I'm not seeing it. There is one that says somewhere in here, import accountant changes. And I think that's once you have created a, you've created an accountant's copy and the accountant is sending the changes back to you. And I don't only think that option is going to come up when you get that. So see here where it says send company file and it comes up accountant's copy. That's where you can create. See where it says here, if you create an accountant's copy, QuickBooks knows it and it'll say, and it's lightened here because I haven't created one, but it'll say view and export changes for client. We send them to you and then it'll come up. Import, you can barely see it. Import accountant changes. That's where you want to import those changes, that QBY that the accountant's going to send you. But you will have had to have made an accountant's copy in order to be able to use that feature. Whew, that's a lot of information.
And I didn't find anything on password protecting when you're emailing from QuickBooks.
Okay. All right, so I don't have an answer for you there. Wow, that was a lot of information in a very short period of time. I hope you guys found some value to it. We appreciate you joining us. If you ever have any questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to any of our ProAdvisors at any of our offices. Just a quick note, later today, you will get a survey, and I swear I hate to send them out, but that information is so helpful to us to help if there's something we're missing, if we're going through the information too quick. By all means, make your comments. If there's something you want us to cover next time, let us know and we'll try to get to it. So I want to make sure that we get the feedback from you guys so that we can streamline our next group meetings rather. So you will get an email with a survey. So please respond back. We would appreciate your feedback on that. And thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.